Oh, yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
but the
we
card
showed
art.
off his concept art, and there's again, you can see all the different things about him, whether it's his iconic pose to the cyclic ring around him, to all those different pieces of art in his model.
Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, and here we
And
are
there
in
he is in
game.
game.
Oh,
Beautiful.
absolutely awesome. Yeah, so beautiful.
So I guess this is a good opportunity to actually talk about a little bit of the things that are the iconic items that and just parts of his model, because we went through not just painstaking research, because a lot of this is things that we knew we needed to bring into the game. So whether that's the matted hair that he has with the top knot that you can see has actually the blue tinges to it, because it's actually holding the river Ganges within it. The blue skin, but as well as a slightly deeperly blue throat, which is based on his stories of the poison. Of course, he's got his snake buddy with him as well, which is actually integral there. We've got the horizontal lines in his forehead, the vertical eye, and I'm going to go through these a little bit. The crescent moon in his headdress. We've got his trident, which is the Damaru drum. We've got the Agni fire. We've got the meditation beads and the tiger skin. There's just so much love that we've put into bringing Shiva into the game, and we're really excited.
Well, awesome, awesome. If y'all think we're at a good moment, let's just see a showcase of the abilities.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Knock it out. Let's show them off. That is so awesome. I'm getting chills just from the sound effects and the visuals. Oh.
Yes.
The audio design, the visuals, the particles, the animation. So much love from all departments.
Absolutely.
Literally firing on all cylinders constantly. So, I mean, let's just start off. Let's go through everything. Let's start off with the basic attack. Let's talk through that.
So yeah, Shiva does actually have longer basic attacks like we would see with a normal spear or lance user, the 16-foot range. He does have a basic attack chain as well, so that third hit will be a meteor hit, while the second one will be slightly weaker. He is also, yeah, of course, he's a physical warrior, as we've mentioned in the Closer Look blog. I know people were a little bit confused, and there's some people saying he's an assassin. No, he's a physical warrior. Although we expect him to be played in potentially different lanes, but we can talk about that again towards the end.
Yeah, awesome. Well, then let's get into what about the passive. So, Samsara, you said?
Yeah, Samsara. It is the idea of the cyclicality of the universe. That is going to be his gameplay hook. It's going to be what we talked about in the Closer Look blog. He's a state switcher more than he is a stance switcher, and that you can see in his passive. It's going to be going from the two states of bliss and destruction, and you can go through these by dealing damage to enemy gods with the different attacks and abilities. There's basically two components to the state switching. One is just a primary buff or debuff state. So if you're in bliss, you're going to be providing HP5 and MP5 buff aura to yourself and allies. If you're in destruction, you're going to be doing the reverse to enemies. You're going to be decreasing their HP5 and MP5 around you. But playing off of that state for his abilities is that each one of his abilities outside of his ultimate will be providing different utility effects depending on which state he's in. So the abilities themselves won't be changing, and you're going to see, if you look at the patch notes, I'm sure you're going, why does he have so many different things? It's because you're going to basically be switching between different utility effects, and I'll go through each one of those as we continue on with the abilities.
Awesome. Well, now seems like a good time to continue forward into his first ability, Emblazoned Sweep.
Yeah, so his first ability, it's I want to say these are pretty simple, but when you put everything together, it's not quite so simple. But Emblazoned Sweep, Shiva is kind of enhancing his trident, the Trishula, with the fire of Agni, which is what he's holding in his hands, as he spins it around him, dealing damage and pulling in all of the enemies. When he spins around the trident, he's also leaving behind a firewall at the edge. That deals damage to enemies if they're inside of it. It's not a dot, but if you do cross within the threshold, you'll take damage. Think kind of like Ganesha's ultimate. Now, the spin does damage. The damage on the fire, of course, is there. And going into that passive a little bit more, if you're in the bliss state, so you can see that right now, the fire has a little bit of that blue tinge. And that's because if Shiva or his allies cross through that fire, they'll actually gain a movement speed buff. Now, if we switch to destruction state, enemies who go through that will actually be getting their protections reduced for a short duration. So that's how the passive kind of works. If you're in destruction, the allies no longer gain that movement speed buff, but the enemies gain a utility debuff instead. And like I said, we'll talk about the different effects on the different abilities, but there's a primary core component, which is the circle pull-in and damage with that firewall, and then either the movement speed buff in Bliss or the protection reduction in Destruction.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's super awesome, and I love the thematic, destruction or creation half. It's just absolutely amazing. So I guess we'll move on to ability number 2, Damaru's Tempo.
Damaru is that little drum that he's attached to the Trishula Trident, and that's what he's going to be using with the striking his trident in front of him with quite vigor that you can hear the Damaru shake. So what's happening here is you can actually see there's a segmented cone where you can choose which part of that cone you want to have the a knockup, really, the enhanced effect, which is the knockup. The damage is going to be going in throughout the cone. The knockup will also be hitting depending on which segment you choose, and those are the core components of the ability. The damage and the knockup will always happen. Now, for the states, if you're going to be in the Bliss state, it's an attack speed buff, always for Shiva, so you don't have to worry about it. He'll be gaining that. You can see the little buff that he gains in the tooltip icon, as well as allies. Again, if you actually are using this through enemies and through allies, they'll be gaining an attack speed buff as well. It doesn't matter. The segmentation is only there for the knockup. If he's in the destruction state, it's going to be an attack speed debuff instead. So nothing positive for your allies, but for your enemies, they're going to be hitting with that damage and going to be hit with that attack speed debuff.
That is
a lot of
super
discussion
awesome.
came up with this one in the blog post. This was the ability I was referring to about the unique cone targeter, where we have had cone targeters with a segment. Actually, we had Atlas, but this one actually has a manual selection of which segment you want to do the bonus effect in, which is a very new effect, and has a very unique skill shot element to it that feels natural and you hit it a lot. But if you do get lazy or are careless or you're trying to hit multiple targets, you might make a mistake and have to pay attention more.
Yep. So when it does have a little bit of a time before when you select and you've locked in the segment versus when it actually fires. There is that pre-fire target you can see which locks in that segment, so you can continue casting and knowing where the knockup is going to be. But just keep that in mind. Also, as you guys can already tell, Shiva has quite a bit of CC in control. It's mostly between these two abilities. There's less CC in the rest of his kit, but these are primarily very important. And now, again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but if you're playing against a Shiva on lane, maybe a Stone of Gaia to try and sustain back from some of these knockouts.
Of course. And I just want to comment on something that I think I noticed while we were showing off that last ability. If I'm correct, Shiva is one of the few people that has a non-combat animation. So an animation that only plays if you're out of combat. Is that correct?
That is. It's a feature that a lot of gods have, but a few within the last few years did not. It's something that essentially what it does is when the god is just idling like this, they will have a different idle than if they had just recently attacked. They would also have a different run and jump. So it's quite a few animations. It's a lot of the movement, jumping, the movement, the jumping, and movement. And Smite includes 8-way runs, which is a lot of different directions. So there's a lot of extra things there. So it is a very expensive additional add, but it's something that we've seen a lot of feedback for, and we are going to be attempting to bring back on as many future gods as we can. So much shout out to the animation team and for their planning and their work to get this on Shiva and make this god feel as special as he deserves to be.
I couldn't agree more.
This does not refer to dances, emotes, or special emotes. That's a completely different system. This is a much more subtle system of animation that adds additional kind of flavor and personality to the god while you're playing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally just saw that as we were talking about it and watching them transform from that, the after attack or post attack animation, and then just all of these movements just are so fluent and had so much character in life. It's just so enjoyable to watch. So super cool. Sorry to interrupt. I just fell in love with that. So next up, we have ability number 3, and that's Pillar of Dawn. So let's talk about the Pillar of Dawn.
Yeah, the Pillar of Dawn. So Shiva chooses a selection mechanism. So it's kind of like 2 separate dashes in a way. So you can choose a location where you're going to dash into, and you can choose, that can be a short area, as you can see there. You can change the range on it. And Shiva dashes to that to the pillar, becoming CC immune and taking reduced damage while he's inside there, as well as pulsing kind of an aura effect. And then you can dash out again. Each dash deals damage to enemies in and out, as well as that aura, which does different things again, going back onto the passive. So if you're in Bliss state, you're going to be pulsing out a block stack to your allies, a maximum of 1. But Shiva himself, at the end of the duration of the pillar, will actually be accumulating block stacks. So he'll gain up to 3 when he leaves, and you can see that as the orbs floating around him. If you're in just the destruction state, we kept this one a lot more simple. It's just going to be pulsing damage around him in that pillar.
Awesome. It is so, I love like the silhouette view. That is so awesome to look at.
Yes, exactly. And that's a good mention, because we wanted to utilize his stories and his lore and his identity as much as we could. And one of the origination stories of Shiva is that he actually emerged from a pillar of fire revealing himself to Brahma and Vishnu, and that's something that the design team really just wanted to latch onto, and it just brought such great imagery that the art teams just executed on fantastically. So I'm very, very excited for this ability.
I couldn't agree more. A beautiful implementation. I think it looks absolutely stunning. So now we are on to the ultimate, which I'm super excited for, and this one is called Shiva Tandava.
Yes, that's right. So one of the things that I didn't mention is that Shiva, as the many different things, you know, as the primary yogi, is the creator and destroyer. He's also a lord of dance, and that's something that he utilizes the Tandava to kind of destroy the world, but also in just many different stories to do many different things. But this is it. This is his ultimate dance, and quite literally. So in the Shiva Tandava, Shiva's CC immune for 6 seconds doing his dance, and there's up to 4 different steps that are always happening on the 1.5 second beats. In the first step, so also, I guess, before I get ahead of myself, you can see his buff, his ability icons change to the 3 different steps, and you can choose which one you're going to be going into next. So no matter what, there's always going to be the step that is performed at the 1.5 second beat, but you can choose an interchange between them. The first one is a heal for himself and allies, as well as a soft mana restore. The second one is the amplification step, where it does a little bit of damage, a little bit of healing, but also amplifies the radius and the effects of the next step that is performed. So you can see here the radius actually gets bigger. The third one is a damage to enemies, as well as a shield reduction to enemies. So you can choose which order of dances, and I mean, again, the art team just did such a fantastic job, whether it's between the effects to the animations, which is just kind of mind-blowing that I'm almost, you know, awestruck and at a loss for words, between the sound design. Each one of the different steps that he performs, whether it's destruction, bliss, or amplification, does a different pose. He's got his ongoing dancing loop throughout. I mean, really just a kudos to all the teams involved, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit again later. But for the ability itself, 6 seconds of immunity, no extra movement speed, CC immunity specifically, and damage, heal, or a little bit of both.
And that is just, I mean, it's incredible from every angle. It's hard for me to choose what I'm most excited to talk about with this, but I feel like it's worth mentioning. The Destroyer, a creator, amazing titles. God of Dance is unbelievably cool alongside all of that. Like, I don't know, just hearing that is... for some reason, that just really stands out to me as something that is super unique and super awesome. And watching that ultimate play out, even when somebody is destroying me with it in game post 9-2, I don't even think I'm going to be able to be mad. I'm going to be like, all right, well, I mean, it hurt, but that was really cool to look at.
It's a very high skill ultimate as well. I don't know if we really mentioned that. You know, it looks like a big circle, so those tend to be easier to use. But between the positioning and the decision making and really min-maxing it, there is a lot to think about in this process, and it does make you vulnerable in many ways, right? It's got movement, it's got CC immunity and mitigations, but you're also stuck doing that effect for a while. So if you mistime it, you can really put yourself in a risky position.
Very, very true.
Yep. As soon as you start channeling that ultimate, if you get put into a bad spot, and because again, you're not gaining an extra movement ability, if the enemy just leaps away or uses their movement ability, you're gonna have to cancel out of that, wasting the cooldown and kind of try and catch up.
Either way, I am excited for all of how compatible this ability looks like it'll be with so many other Gods kits. I think it's going to be cool to see how this plays into the game overall. So, do y'all want to get into talking about a little bit of the playstyle, kind of what you imagine, how you imagine Shiva is going to fit into the world of Smite?
So we talked about a little bit earlier that, you know, he is a warrior. We're hoping that people give him a try in the soul lane, but between the different utility effects, he's probably going to find decent success as a guardian warrior as well in the dual lane, and I fully expect people to try and give him a good run for the money in the jungle role too.
Yeah, I definitely expect to see some just some play in the support role, you know, like with that duality of being a damage dealer, an enemy attacker, or the ally helper, with the creation half. I think there's a lot of flexibility here depending on how you play and monitor which state you're.
Yeah, and also to keep in mind, we talked about how sort of Gaia could be pretty useful against Shiva. Another thing is if you build a little bit of anti-heal, as much as we hate to say it, or build into Cursed Ankh, or any of the Ankhs even. Of course, we've changed them up with the relic upgrades. That kind of limits what Shiva can do with his ultimate. He kind of is forced into the destruction, because if he tries to use Bliss or Amplification, he's going to be healing himself and his team, and actually probably hindering them.
Yeah, so it's crazy thing about a new character is there's all these new things you can do, and it's also a whole variety of different doors that are open for counterplay. excited to see this to happen. So let's move on. Let's talk. Let's look at some of these recolors, or some of the new skins, starting with Supreme Protector Shiva.
Oh my god, I don't think I've seen the card art for these, so I'm gonna just be kind of awestruck with each one.
I mean, big same, honestly. I absolutely love the colors. Always look so good to me.
Yeah, we're utilizing his like Pillar of Fire pose here, which is just sweet. I love the meditation beads. It's so
Very
cool.
nice classic recolor with the slightly different skin tone, but then the white tiger fur, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's right.
And like the green highlight. And I don't think I
Nice.
mentioned this earlier, but I am a huge fan of the 4 arms. It's just that's just something I love. The more appendages, it makes animation a lot harder, I'm sure.
Oh
but
yeah, it does.
our animation team is incredible, and just another huge shout out to them for making somebody with 4 arms like that have such an elegant flow. So here we're moving on to Ascended Shiva.
Yeah, he's so much more aggressive in this one. He's just really, if you're facing this version of Shiva, you really want to back down.
Yeah.
And this one we did more texture to the skin. The ash that is actually associated with his yogi background, which is really cool.
Yep.
And awesome to continue to see these thematic pieces of very important lore portrayed across these various skins too. And then we have the mastery.
It's like resplendent. Yeah. I love it.
Absolutely. Resplendent is a perfect word. Yes. Ooh.
Nice.
That is so awesome to look at.
I've never seen a blue tiger before.
It's a New Game Plus kind of thing,
Yeah, true. True. You haven't gone to Zoo Game Plus, I guess.
And there's a lot of lighting, importance of the lighting going on here, because I feel like just as we spin around him, you see a lot of that different detail change. So that's cool.
Yeah, that is super awesome.
These skins are highly, all of the Diamond Legendary Mastery, highly reflective.
Yeah. I just absolutely love it. I'm so excited for all of these. They all look super great. So, and that was Shiva. I mean, what more? There's so many good things. We're going to continue to talk
diamond.
Got a diamond too.
Oh, there it is. Nice.
And yeah, I was just like, wait a second. There's 3, right?
Yeah. Oh, that is so awesome. We would be doing a disservice not to hear a voice line as well. So let's hear a voice line.
Of course.
I was there when it all began, and I will be here when it is all over.
That voice is just so powerful and calming.
Yeah, we actually were able to get Harish Bithmani, who's the voice actor, who was, chat may not recognize that name at all, but he was a voice actor for the Mahabharata like deity kind of show in, back in India. So it was great to be able to work with him.